Hey everyone, Father Ben here. I'm in the sacristy and I'm going to take you through in a little video series some of the process that we as clergy go through when we get ready for Mass, when we put on all of the vestments, the process we call vesting for the Mass. And so one of the things we'll show you is this room itself, the sacristy, where we keep all of our vestments and where we prepare for the Mass. The sacristy, just as a general point, is actually supposed to be a place of prayer. It's a place where we are supposed to prayerfully prepare for the Mass. And one of the things that happens is very often there can be some chaos, there can be some things that need to be taken care of, questions that need to be answered. Even the way our sacristy is here at St. John's, where it's kind of in a corner, it kind of funnels people here. But ideally, and we want to strive for this more and more, is that the sacristy would be a place of prayer before and after Mass. No unnecessary conversation. As you can see, we have a crucifix here, we've got some icons, we have this beautiful image of Padre Pio, which has one of my favorite expressions, reminding us as priests to pray this Mass as if it were your first, your last, or your only Mass. So it's always in that spirit that we want to be preparing for and entering into the Mass when we all gather at the Lord's table. All right, so the first vestment that the priest or deacon puts on is called the amice, A-M-I-C-E, and traditionally it's a rectangular piece of cloth with these long strings attached to either end, if I can get them to untangle. There we go. And so typically the priest or deacon kisses it out of reverence and places it around his shoulders. And what this garment does is it covers, or it's meant to cover, the collar. It's meant to cover anything of the priest's or deacon's normal everyday clothes that are visible. And the idea is that when we enter into the liturgy, we're stepping outside of normal life, normal everyday life. And this is just a little symbol of that. And then the strings tie around the waist to keep it in place. And there's a beautiful prayer that goes with the placing of the amice, as there is with every piece of our vestments that we'll pray when we place them on as we're getting ready for Mass. So the amice prayer goes like this. It says, "Lord, set the helmet of salvation on my head to fend off all the assaults of the devil." There's also a beautiful tradition of the amice, because it goes over the head. It's like the helmet, protecting us from evil and allowing us to enter into the Mass and pray and be pleasing to the Lord. The next vestment that we wear, the next step in the process, is putting on what we call the alb, A-L-B, which is a long white garment. Often it will have sort of decorations. Some albs are less ornate. This is a pretty ornate one, but this is one I also like to wear because it's easy to clean. Alb covers the whole body, so this one goes on over the head. Hangs down underneath. Sometimes you'll see priests or deacon wearing just the alb if they're outside of Mass, for hearing confessions or something like that, or benediction. But for Mass, this is the next garment that goes on, and the prayer that accompanies the putting on of the alb goes like this. It says, "Make me pure, O Lord, and cleanse my heart, that being made pure in the blood of the Lamb, I may deserve an eternal reward." And so that word alb comes from the word for the Latin word for white, for the color white. And it's meant to symbolize that purity, that brightness that covers our whole body as we enter into worship the Lord. So the next piece of our vestments that we put on after putting on the alb is called the cincture. And as you can see, the cincture is a rope that is worn around the waist. And typically because it's very long, we wrap it up into a braid like this. Now, there's a whole semester in seminary teaching you how to tie up your cincture. No, I'm just kidding. But you can pull it out like this, and as you can see, it is very long. Usually has some kind of tassel on both ends. But the way you fasten it around your waist is to double it over, wrap it around. At least this is how I do it, or how I was taught to do it. And you feed the ends through, making a knot, and then you pull up the hanging ends like that. And the cincture serves a purpose, obviously, to sort of keep everything like a belt you'd wear with your normal clothes, but it also symbolizes the virtue of purity and chastity that the priest or deacon is supposed to have. So the prayer that goes with the cincture is this: "Gird me, O Lord, with the cincture of purity, and quench in my heart the fire of concupiscence, that the virtue of continence and chastity may abide in me." Amen. All right, the next step is to put on the stole, S-T-O-L-E, and this is the garment that is worn underneath the chasable, which we'll get to in a minute, which is the outermost vestment that you're used to seeing. But the priest wears his stole around the neck. Typically the tradition is to kiss. There's usually a little cross at the neck of the stole as a sign of reverence. Then it's placed over your shoulders, and here's another purpose for the cincture. It gives you the little loops to keep the stole in place so it doesn't move around too much. The stole is the symbol of authority. The stole is the symbol of the pastor, the good shepherd. A deacon wears his stole a little bit differently. He wears his stole over his left shoulder and fastened at the waist. I remember being told the deacon wears a stole like a driver's side seat belt. But the priest, as you can see, a priest or a bishop, would wear his around the neck and in the two ends hanging down. And the prayer that goes with the placing of the stole goes like this: "Lord, restore the stole of immortality, which I lost through the collusion of our first parents, and unworthy as I am to approach your sacred mysteries, may I yet gain eternal joy. Amen." And the very last vestment that we wear is the chasable, and chasable is again the one that is the most visible to everybody while we're in the Mass. The deacon wears a slightly different vestment called a dalmatic, but it usually is the same color and matches the chasuble. As you can see, the chasuble is all one piece. It doesn't have sleeves. There's different styles of chasuble, but this is the ones we have here at St. John's are pretty common style. And it's this large vestment that goes over the head and hangs down. And it symbolizes the yoke of our responsibility as pastors, as shepherds. We wear this vestment that completely covers us, and it really rests on our shoulders because we bear that beautiful yoke, that burden, if you will, of caring for God's people. And one of the things I like to mention, we talked about the stole a little while ago. The chasuble is known as the garment of charity, and the stole, again, is the garment of authority. So we wear the garment of charity over the garment of authority, meaning that our authority is always to be covered over and tempered by our love, our charity. And so here's the prayer that goes with the chasuble. O Lord, who has said, "My yoke is sweet and my burden light," grant that I may so carry it as to merit thy grace. Amen. All right, so those are the vestments we wear at Mass, but I also wanted to take a moment to show you a different vestment that you would not see at Mass, and it's precisely because it's a vestment that's worn when a priest or deacon is not celebrating the Mass, but is celebrating any other kind of liturgy or blessing, like benediction, sometimes weddings that happen without a Mass, other liturgies, or other times of prayer, and this is called the cope, C-O-P-E, and an easy way to remember it is it's one letter different from cape, and it looks like a cape. So as you can see, it sort of fastens around the neck, and it's a long cape or cloak, and sort of hangs open like this. And then another thing that you'll often see worn with it is what's called the humeral veil, from the same word as humility. And this is a special garment that's used when carrying the Blessed Sacrament, either in procession to and from the tabernacle or in benediction. And it also goes around the neck. We're getting real elaborate here. And it has these little pockets that the priest or deacon puts his hands in as he's handling the Blessed Sacrament, out of a sign of extreme reverence and humility for touching what is touching the Lord in the Eucharist, either to give the blessing or, again, to carry the Eucharist in procession. So these are a few vestments that aren't seen as often. You don't see them really at Mass, but you might also see one of us in one of our priests or deacons wearing these at other times for other celebrations.